I didn't think they had much of a chance going into the game. That game was over, gentlemen, in 10 minutes. That game was over. And 14-0. I think Brady could have took the rest of the day off. We'll see what happens with Philly down the line, but they need some help on both sides of the ball. No.
You're watching Birds 365 here on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel. McMullen and McDonald, joined by another Hall of Fame voter. We've been debating Hall of Fame, Ira, over the last couple of minutes. We haven't been able to figure that out. We had Mike Sielski from the Inquirer here in Philadelphia on a couple of minutes ago, and we got off on a Hall of Fame tangent. So we're going to follow in line. We got a whole bunch of things we want to hit on with you. But you and I talked this weekend, and you guys just had your Hall of Fame meeting recently, again virtually, not in person prior to the Super Bowl, second consecutive year because of COVID. But you thought it actually went pretty damn well this year, huh?
Went pretty well, but it's not the same. It's not the same as meeting in the Super Bowl city the morning before the game. Everybody in that room, all 49 selectors, I think, would rather be in Glendale, Arizona next year rather than a Zoom call. So let's hope that happens. I just think it's interesting to look around the room and see who's interested, who's dozing off during these presentations. You can't do that very well on a Zoom call. And it hurts me, gentlemen, because I tend to be a little dramatic with my presentations.
There we go. Yeah.
I stand up and, you can't take the Brooklyn out of the boy. You can't do it. And so I'm looking to do it in person next year.
You got the booming voice. We can see that, Ira. So you could probably bend a few arms, as they say, if you're in the room. So when you do it over Zoom, and you have a passionate speech, I mean, do you still go that direction? Have you changed your strategy when you're trying to lobby for somebody?
I think it's more reserved. Now, our friend Sal Palantonio, who's a selector, he said a few years ago that I should make all 15 presentations, all 15. And the speech I made for Warren Sapp, which was in 2013, and going into that meeting, it was in New Orleans, and Michael Strahan was on the finalist list that year along with Sapp. And the common wisdom was that Strahan was going to get in, first year of eligibility. Sapp was going to have to wait, but it didn't happen. And I'll tell you why, because in the weeks leading up to it, and I was doing my due diligence on Sapp, I happened to call Keyshawn Johnson. Now, Sapp and Johnson didn't get along well. Sapp didn't respect Johnson. So Keyshawn was in L.A., and I called him, and I said, hey, I'm making the presentation for Sapp in 2 weeks. Does he belong in Canton? Should he get a bust? Well, Keyshawn hesitated, and then he uttered the immortal line. Yeah, he belongs. He's an asshole, but he belongs. And I took that sentence and I brought it right into the meeting room in New Orleans. And David Baker, the president of the hall, said, Ira, nobody's ever used that word in this room before. I said, well, I have now. And so this way, I didn't have to call Sapp an a-hole. I got Keyshawn Johnson calling him an a-hole.
Somebody else to do it. Good job out of you.
But the point is that none of the Sapp nonsense, not signing autographs and being belligerent and crude, none of that matters when you're judging a Hall of Fame player. And by the way, gentlemen, you might not know this, but the NFL does not have any kind of a character clause like baseball does.
Yeah.
It's very different.
They should remove that, Ira.
Right.
I mean, it's hard enough to judge a guy based on his merits. So now I'm going to judge his character. You're right.
Yeah.
And we were just arguing that about the baseball clause should have come out on the baseball side. You're right. NFL has never used that. All right. Couple of years down the road, as good as you are, even if someone believes you should give the speeches for everybody, I think there are going to be guys in Boston that are going to go, no. Ira, you had him for a short period of time. We had him for decades up here in Boston for that quarterback you guys currently have down there. You're probably not going to get to make the speech for him, but is it going to be 5 years from now or 6 years from now or 7 years from now? A lot of talk prior to the game. Hadn't happened all season long, at least as far as I'm concerned. You know better. You're right there. You're in town. But nobody was talking about a Brady retirement. And then it became a thing before the game. It wasn't before the Bucs and the Eagles. Nobody was talking about Brady walking away. But for some reason, it did crop up leading into the Ram game, and certainly has been a major topic of conversation over the last several days since the season has ended for the Buccaneers. Where are you at in reading the tea leaves on whether Tom Brady's career has come to an end?
Well, the one thing I can tell you guys for sure, there's panic in the streets in Tampa. Panic. Because until Brady makes an announcement and quells the fears of Buck Nation, this story is going to continue to have legs. He doesn't say anything. He doesn't say yes. He doesn't say no. All he keeps talking about is family. And that's very ominous for Buck fans because, Bruce Arians can't control that. Jason Light, the general manager, can't control that. I don't think it's an issue of the roster. I don't think Brady can go to Denver and think he's got a better chance to win than in Tampa. He's very happy with Arians. By the way, if Leftwich were to leave, and it looks like he might get that Jaguars job, we asked Arians the other day, hey, who's going to call the plays if you lose Byron Leftwich? Arians said, I am. So he didn't even hesitate. He's going to resume taking over the play calling, and I think that's got to make Brady happy. So what I'm saying is it's all about the family now with Brady. I got it up to 50-50. I had it as maybe a 20% chance he retires. And some people, guys, even think that his demeanor last Sunday in the Rams game was a little bit different. Maybe he wasn't as invested, as involved as he usually is. Maybe when he gets to the sidelines, he wasn't talking up to the other players. Everybody's looking at the tea leaves, like you said. They're all trying to parse words and figure out what's going on. I'll tell you this, guys. If he hangs it up, and you're right, the Boston representative will make the speech for Brady, and I'll add my 2 cents about his 2 years in Tampa. And by the way, they had made the playoffs in 13 years before Brady came to town. So I got something to say about Brady. But if he leaves and the Bucs are not able to pull off something with Russell Wilson, Rodgers, Deshaun Watson, I think Arians leaves at that point. Certainly,
That's
Gronkowski.
what I was going to ask you, Ira.
Yeah.
Why do you think that Bruce was so quick to say, I'm coming back? You see what Sean Payton did. Like, he's playing. He figured out life after Drew Brees isn't quite as easy. And Bruce is like, nah, I'm coming back. Do you really want to come back if you don't have Tom Brady? I was a little surprised at how quickly he jumped in that pool.
I wouldn't read too much into that, gentlemen. I really wouldn't. I think he said that for Brady's benefit. But the fact is that could change in a heartbeat. And I think it will if they don't get a veteran quarterback and Brady retires. They got Blaine Gabbert, who for whatever reason, Arians talks him up like he's Johnny Unitas. I think the guy is very pedestrian. He's a lifetime backup, former first-round pick, but he didn't pan out. And then they got this pick, Kyle Trask, second rounder from Florida. Yeah. Arians is not sticking around, to work with Kyle Trask in Tampa. That's not going to happen. So the dominoes could fall very quickly here in Tampa. It could all fall apart pretty darn quickly if Brady leaves.
I want to take you back about 10 days ago or so, Ira, when the Eagles were playing the Buccaneers. They start with the coin toss, and the Eagles won the coin toss and decided to defer. Did you think at that time the game was over?
I'll tell you what, guys. The Eagles didn't show up. I mean, let's be honest. They were awful.
Yeah, they were.
They were just terrible. Fell behind at the start. Couldn't run the ball. Didn't want to run the ball. I don't know why. Hurts is not an outstanding thrower. What Philly does well is run the football with Hurts and some good backs and a good line. I just thought the Eagles stunk. I didn't think they had much of a chance going into the game. That game was over, gentlemen, in 10 minutes. That game was over. And 14-0. I think Brady could have took the rest of the day off. We'll see what happens with Philly down the line, but they they need some help on both sides of the ball, no question.
Ira, what did happen in that game was Tristan Wirfs got injured and was unable to come back for the divisional round. Is that what cost the Bucs? I mean, they had one of the best offensive lines in football. All of a sudden, now the Rams are great up front with Aaron Donald and Von Miller now and Leonard Floyd, but they couldn't block those guys.
That was a big factor.
Yeah. Was that Wirfs injury? Did that essentially cost the Buccaneers that game?
I don't know if they would have beat the Rams with Wirfs, but they would have had a heck of a better chance. And the center got banged up, Ryan Jensen, even though he played.
Yeah.
But you're right. You know what I noticed in the Rams game? Raheem Morris is the coordinator, used to be the coach of the Bucs. I see that he moved Aaron Donald around quite a bit. Every time I looked up, he was playing left defensive end and opposite, where Wirfs was supposed to be standing. By the way, Wirfs is fantastic. The guy is great. Bought a draft pick by the Bucs. He was the fourth of those offensive tackles. There were four big guys coming out of that draft.
Yeah.
Three of them went before Wirfs, including the Giants took their guy Thomas at number 4. And so when the Buck pick came around, there's Wirfs standing there. Jason Light pounced on him. And I voted for him as an All-Pro a year ago, and I voted for him All-Pro again. He made it this year. It was a big factor. But I just think the Rams were a bad matchup for the Bucs, and I'm starting to think that the 49ers are a bad matchup for the Rams this weekend.
Yeah.
That's where I was going next with my question. Rams did what they did against the Bucs this past week. Oh, let me go for you first. People accuse me of being a Brady too big a fan and put him on a pedestal. Let me go on record. I hate Tom Brady. Hate him with a passion. I'm a Jet guy. He's screwed the Jets for 20 years, so I'm going to hate the guy the rest of his days on the planet. Also, Big Green Monster, jealousy. He's got Giselle, more money than God. Yeah, I hate the guy. But I acknowledge his greatness as the greatest quarterback of all time in the history of the National Football League. And I defended him again on Sunday. Those 3 unnecessary personal foul penalties on the Bucs in the first half. Was that as big a piece of conversation? I know the game played on. It was the first half. They were way behind. They came back. They tied it. They let Cooper Kupp get open twice in a row. What the hell, Todd Bowles? So there's a lot to it. But as that game was happening, I'm going, man, the referees are taking control of this game. Why would they do this in a divisional round? How big a piece of conversation was it down there that not 1, not 2, 3 15-yard penalties for unsportsmanlike conduct in the first half of that game on the Bucs?
It was a big post-game issue for Buck Nation. They hit Twitter in force. What the heck are the Zebras doing? They're taking the game away from us. But guys, you watch the game like I watched the game. I thought the Bucs were manhandled. I thought the Rams were far superior. If Akers doesn't fumble at the 1, it's 27-3 at the half. That game's over. They got every break imaginable. That terrible snap by the Rams that came after a Brady fumble that had all the momentum on the Rams side. And the next play is that stupid snap that got the Bucs back in the game.
Yeah.
Where I'm standing, those calls didn't have that much to do with the game. Of course, Buck fans are looking for excuses. They're looking at Wirfs. They're looking at the officials. I didn't think the Bucs played very well. And I thought the Rams deserved to win that game.
You're right, Ira. They got a lot of breaks as far as the fumbles. The fumble late was inexcusable. Sue made a great play, but that's inexcusable from Akers' standpoint.
Yeah.
But they were in it. They came all the way back, and there's Tom Brady, and you could feel things clenching up for the Rams.
Yes.
Todd Bowles, great defensive coordinator. Maybe he gets a head coaching job. People are advocating for him. I got to tell you, in that situation, 0 blitz, what the hell was Todd Bowles thinking?
That's the guys. That is the post-game discussion that has taken over this town, this region. What was Bowles doing? They rushed 6 guys on that play. 6. The only guy who made any headway was Ndamukong Suh right up the middle, but he got there too late. The other 5 guys were totally neutralized. So when you rush 6 and you don't get there, and you don't move Stafford off his launching spot that he prefers, you're asking for trouble. Then of all the guys for single coverage, it's Cooper Kupp. Now, with all due respect to Jerry Rice, he's had a couple of these kind of seasons. This is arguably one of the top 3 receiving seasons in NFL history by Cooper Kupp. He started in week 1 and he never stopped. He's going to get his 10 catches on Sunday against the Niners. I mean, he's that good. And so you let him go down the seam. And who does he beat? A safety, Antoine Winfield. You don't even put Carlton Davis, your best corner, on him. People are chopping up Todd Bowles. I mean, they're killing him. And they're even questioning how good he was even before that snap. I don't think that's fair. Look what they did to Mahomes in the Super Bowl. So Bowles is taking the brunt of the criticism. And you know what, guys? He deserves a good bulk of it for that final gaffe. What a gaffe.
Agreed. So it sounds to me like you're leaning toward the Rams this week. No, you had firsthand look at them this week as they beat the Bucs. 49ers have now won 2 straight road playoff games. What's a 3rd straight road playoff game? What's the 3rd game against a team you've beaten 6 straight times? Yeah, the head coach of the 49ers lives rent-free in the head coach of the Rams as far as I'm concerned. Which way you leaning toward the championship game, Rams or 49ers?
The more I think about it, I think this is a bad matchup for the Rams, and I'll tell you why. The 49ers beat you up. They might be the most physical team in the league. Tennessee's really physical. The Niners might be number 1 in that regard. The Rams are not overly physical. I think the Rams are more of a finesse team, even though they got Aaron Donald. What's the strength of the Rams besides Cooper Kupp? The pass rush. Well, I don't know how much of a factor that's going to be because the Niners don't throw the ball very much.
That's true.
And the Bucs throw the ball all over the joint. So it is a big factor when you're playing the Bucs because Leftwich doesn't like to call runs. They had 71 snaps and 13 runs. 71 and 13 last week against the Rams. That's a recipe for disaster. So what I'm saying is the Niners run the ball well, and I don't know about the Rams' rush defense. I think it's mediocre. But Leftwich didn't test it enough, partly because they fell behind quickly and they got in a hole. And this guy, Deebo Samuel, guys, now when I was filling out my All-Pro ballot a couple of weeks ago, you got 3 wide receiver slots. Well, obviously, you're going to put Cooper Kupp. Devontae Adams is a monster, so he gets number 2. Now I'm looking at the 3rd one. Well, Justin Jefferson had a hell of a year in Minnesota. The more I kept thinking about it, I'm looking at Deebo Samuel. I'm saying, all this guy does is make plays. He's a receiver. He's a running back. He's a kick returner. I voted for Deebo Samuel, and I've never looked back. In the last couple of weeks, he's the man.
Yeah.
What a player that guy has turned out to be. So I think the Niners have a very good chance.
Yeah, what a unique player. I think he's the most unique. I think he's the most exciting player in the NFL, Deebo Samuel, right now. But I want to talk to you about the AFC side, Ira, because you've been covering, you've seen a lot of football. In the pantheon of games that you've seen, Kansas City, Buffalo, where do you place that? Is that one of the greatest games of all time, or is this recency bias?
I think it's top 3. Considering that it was a second round of a playoff game. I felt bad for Josh Allen when that game ended. Oh, yeah. First of all, the guy's fabulous. And he's going to be there for the next 10 years. So if you're in the AFC East, you got problems facing that guy. I don't know if he's better throwing the ball or running the ball. What an arm he's got. Buffalo, to me, shameful with the 13 seconds. I mean, I've been following the Chiefs for 55 years, since the Len Dawson days. And I thought the game was over. I mean, how could I not think that? 13 seconds. Now they're killing him for not squibbing the ball. McDermott has to take the blame. He's the head coach. But what's the special teams guy thinking? All the time that the Bills were driving, at the end, you got to think they're going to go ahead and score a touchdown. You got to think that way if you're on the Buffalo sideline. So you got to be prepared. What if we score with 40 seconds left? What are we going to do? And they were totally caught unprepared. Then terrible defense on 2 snaps. So I'll tell you one thing about this Bengal-Chief matchup. I don't care what the over is. I like the over. I don't care if the over is 70. This one's got 41-38 written all over it, gentlemen.
All right, Ira, you are the perfect guy to ask this question to. Somebody brought it up on my national show after I talked to you this past weekend because of the Green Bay playing in the snow globe weather that they did. Someone suggested that the NFL needs to go to neutral site games. They said for all playoff matchups, which is, of course, ridiculous. But would you push it past just the Super Bowl into championship weekend? They pushed the calendar back, so we're now in even colder weather. We're not going to sweat it this week because it's supposed to be in the 40s in Kansas City, and La La Land will be fine. If you guys had wanted, would have been down in your house. But if it had been Buffalo that was playing this week, we could be looking at a god-awful weather condition. I dismissed it as a former New York guy, now Tampa guy, who's seen both ends of what January can look like weather-wise. Should the NFL even consider it? Is the one game, the Super Bowl, the only neutral site game they have? Or should it go back the other way and say, how do you rob the hometown fans from the ability to see their team? They absolutely should be rewarded with all the Super Bowl tickets. What do you think about playing later in the season and how the NFL deals with the weather that they're going to be?
I'm with you on the dismissal side. First of all, I didn't have a problem with the Packers-Niners game. It's still a hell of a game.
Yeah.
And I didn't see that many guys slipping and sliding. I didn't think it was that bad. Number two, and most importantly, guys, I think the NFL regular season has been cheapened a little bit. They keep adding playoff teams. So let's not cheapen the number one seed. Let's not cheapen, everybody striving to have the best record in the conference because then the playoffs have to go through your home stadium. No, absolutely not. Forget about this neutral field nonsense. Now, when you're doing the AFC against the NFC in the Super Bowl, well, then all bets are off in terms of record. But these teams that are in the same conference, you got to strive to be number one. There's got to be a reason for it, and it's got to be more than getting one playoff game at home. I mean, every division winner is guaranteed one playoff game at home. You got to have the feeling that you're getting the bye week and that every time you play in the playoffs until the Super Bowl, you're going to be home. I'm with you, my man. I dismiss it. Stupid idea.
Ira, last one for me because we are in Philadelphia, so I got to focus on Andy Reid. So we have 4 consecutive championship games as a coach in the NFC. Now he's got 4 consecutive championship games as a coach in the AFC. And, oh, by the way, all 4 at home. First time ever somebody's had that kind of run. You're a Hall of Fame voter. We talked about it. Where is Andy Reid now on the list of great coaches in the history of this industry?
Well, I mean, I'm not putting him in the top 5 all time, but he's going to wear a gold jacket, gentlemen. I don't think there's any question about it. Would we be having this discussion if he didn't win that Super Bowl against San Francisco? Maybe, maybe not. I think Super Bowl appearances, multiple, are enough. Philadelphia played a good game against New England in that Super Bowl with Andy Reid. His accomplishments are pretty darn good. I mean, I think he's like number 5 or 6 on the all-time win list. And now he's done it in each conference with 2 different teams. Guys, you're in Philly. I'm a Sixer fan. Can you guys talk to Daryl Morey and tell him you can't wait till the end of the year to trade Simmons because Embiid's playing out of his mind? Give the man a little help. And who knows? You get the right guys for Simmons, you might win the championship this year. Can you guys talk to him?
I love it. I love it. We try all the time. I'm with you, Ira. Make the deal. Do it.
Embiid's the best player in the league right now. He's the best player in this league.
He's a legit MVP candidate, and he hasn't missed all that many games. Those that he missed were COVID-related, and I think they'll cut him some slack for that this year as compared to last year, where you can make an argument that he was the MVP. All right, Ira, last thing. Are you moving outdoors, that nice little patio you got behind you, to watch this weekend's championship action? Because we're going to be inside. It's going to be in the teens here in Philadelphia. Do you get to watch the action outside? What's it going to be like Sunday in Tampa?
It's going to be chilly. It's going to be in the 40s now. It's 60 right now, and we can't handle it. We can't handle the 6.
We might get 8 inches of snow. By the way, you're a Brooklyn guy, Ira. So the New York Daily News yesterday, they put out a headline. I kid you not. New York might get between 2 and 20 inches of snow. Now, how's that for a prediction?
Now, look, guys, you know this is true. When I was growing up, we were guaranteed 2 15-inch snows every darn winter. I mean, every one. And now I watch the national news at 6:30 at night, and they're going to a meteorologist who's standing near the George Washington Bridge outside, and he's panicking because at the end of the day, he says New York City might get 4 inches on Sunday. I mean, what's going on in this world, gentlemen?
Oh, you were able to dodge the awful bullets of New York, and they're less than terrible weather than they used to have. Yeah, you and I grew up at the same time, Ira. It was worse. But yeah, I'd like to be where you are this weekend to be able to watch the leisurely NFC Championship game stuff outside. Ira, thank you very much for coming on. Appreciate the Hall of Fame insight, the Brady insight. Thanks for hopping on with us today. We'll get you on again down the road.
My pleasure, guys. Take care.
That is Ira Kaufman, Hall of Fame voter for the Tampa area, all the Buck players and the like, and columnist for JoeBuckFan.com. All right, he's John McMullen. I'm Jody McDonald. We still got 10 plus minutes left. Come on back with us. I am Bert.